And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Amanda, do you have anything you want to tell to our audience before we get going? Any rules of the day?
Morning. Yes, Jen, thank you. Welcome all. So happy you could join us for this amazing discussion. Just to let you know, this is being recorded, and after we will absolutely share out the recording and the slides and additional helpful resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. I'm Dr. Jan Bryan, and I am so excited to be here with you today to talk about math milestones. And I'll tell you why I'm excited. Number one, being with you. Number two, also, you will get to hear from our colleague, Jennifer Chintala, who is phenomenal. She's going to take you through the instruction piece and how to move students forward. So just get ready for a wonderful experience. And my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Carol Johnson, is going to talk to you about the role of language in learning mathematics, specifically for emerging bilinguals. So we have a fully packed morning for you, and we will get started. We are going to talk about rethinking what we call math milestones, these traditional places where we think, okay, children have this, they are okay to move forward. So we're going to look at all things mathematics today. We're also going to show you some resources here. And I want to just make it clear that we are giving you awareness of what is available to you. We're not here for training. That would not be conducive in this 1 hour environment. So we're going to make you aware, and I hope in your brain you're doing like a shopping mall. This works, I want to be sure that I get this one. So let's dig right in. We've got 3 big areas. I'm going to take you through insights. That will be probably the briefest piece of it. We're going to look at some of the research and a tool that we have here. We're also then going to move to Jennifer, who's going to take you through differentiating instruction and practice so that every student has the opportunity to learn. And Carol is going to help us learn how to work with emerging bilinguals, where language is critical to mathematics understanding. So let's just dig right in. We'll start with our mission to accelerate learning for all. And this has been our mission. Oh, goodness, Carol, help me through this. Since Renaissance began many, many years ago in the late 1980s, correct?
Remember before we even had a slide.
Before we even had a slide to show it. Yes, so we've been working on accelerating learning for all for a very long time, and we will continue working on it every single day. Jennifer, Amanda, if you don't mind, let's get a little bit of information from those who are signed on, just to make sure that we tailor what we need to. So if you don't mind, just tell me your grade levels. And this is a 2-part question. You can pick as many grade levels as you need. And then the next one will be challenges your students face. All right, so we're heavy in the 4 through 6, which is excellent. 7th and 8th. If you are a 7th grade teacher, turn around and pat yourself on the back right now. We will tell you why in a few moments. If you're an 8th grade teacher, pat yourself on the back. Algebra 1. Just go get another cup of coffee. All right, we've got just a wonderful representation. So Amanda, let's look at the next one. We know where we are grade level wise, but if we could look at what their students see as challenges, what do you hear them or notice them? One is that building automaticity with math facts. Yes, that's always difficult. And then there was a time when working toward automaticity seemed counterintuitive, and now it seems exactly as it should be. Amanda Vanderhayden and one of her colleagues, I'm sorry, the name slips me right now, but they have started a website called The Science of Math, and they're looking at things like automaticity. All right, excellent. Excellent. Bringing automaticity is huge. Lacking a growth mindset. I'm just not a mathematician. Yes. Geometry seems foreign. Yes, you almost have to learn a new language. Carol, you could help us with that. You're the linguist. Math is not relevant outside of school. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. That is very helpful information. And we will go ahead and move right forward. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's start with some insights. I will take you through this, and we're going to look, I mentioned Amanda Vanderheyden's work. You can simply go to the science of math. They are not trying to take away from the science of reading. They are insisting that mathematicians look at the evidence as much as reading people look at the evidence and build their work based on the evidence. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the New Teacher Project. It's been around for quite some time, but I first came in contact with the New Teacher Project in 2005, following Hurricane Katrina, when New Orleans was literally wiped off of the map. They started this remediation effort that was based on putting students at grade appropriate assignments. They should be working on what they need to be learning as a 9th grader, as a 4th grader, as a 10th grader, rather than putting them on grade level content that is far below them. Now there's a catch here. You're going to work on grade appropriate content. You're going to work on the concepts that your peers are working on, but with differentiated instruction and resources and support so that you are successful. So that's always going to be number one on a list from the New Teacher Project, would be give them grade appropriate content. Strong instruction, Jennifer will take you through that. Deep engagement, we want students involved. This is where we tell the children who think you're not a mathematician, say, yes, indeed you are, and take them until they feel that they have developed that math language inside of them. And then this one is really strong because it's contagious. Teachers who have such high expectations and believe so deeply that their students can meet grade level expectations, that their students catch that thinking as well. It is contagious. So those are the 4 things that you need to help students recover lost opportunities for learning. We'll give you an example of the power of assignments. Now, this is a classroom this was a classroom taken during the COVID era. So when we're looking at this, a classroom where the average student is substantially behind, okay? Get that classroom in your mind. The assignments were all focused on grade level content, but the resources and instruction and engagement with students were differentiated. But the teacher had such high expectations that the students caught them. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. The move to move 7.9 months in a school year based on working on grade level, grade appropriate assignments and teachers who knew they could do it. Basically, when the student who started out a year behind had greater access to this, they closed the gap with their peers. All right, let's look at a couple of ideas on supporting acceleration, and I'm actually going to take you to a site and walk you through it. Remember, Amanda is sending you this presentation and the recording. So if you want to just watch what I'm going to do on the demo, that might be helpful now to get you a platform so that when you get the resources, you can go to this site as well. All right, we're going to a site that looks at reading and math and how they develop. We're going to focus today on math. This is how mathematics develops across time from pre-K to the end of Algebra 2. Each one of those colors represents a math domain, and the students work in these domains with increasingly more sophisticated knowledge and understanding. So we looked at all of the skills, and for the purposes of this webinar, since it is nationwide, I'm setting this resource to Common Core state standards. If I were in my home state of Texas, I would turn it toward Texas, but we're going to look at Common Core today. When we look at the math curriculum in the Common Core, there are 1,114 total skills. It's a lot of math skills, right? It's a lot. 807 of them are what we call non-focus skills. They're important, they must be taught, because they are laid out in teachable order, which means they are laid out in learnable order, and each one must be taught. But in addition to those 807, there are 307 that are essential for the concepts at each grade level. And they must be taught to the depth that students have confidence in each one of these skills. We call them focus skills because we believe this is the place where you should have greater focus. You focus on all skills, but you have greater focus when we're looking at the focus skills. So how did we identify focus skills in each state's curriculum? Number one, we look for skills that are critical for learning at grade level. You have to know this, and you have to know it at grade level. Second, a focus skill must be impactful. A focus skill actually is a prerequisite for what comes next. You know, when you're bringing students back, closing gaps, you know they've lost the prerequisite. The focus skill gives you the prerequisite for future learning. Every focus skill also reflects the emphasis of your state. So very simply, this resource is what you will use to build back the gaps in learning. It's a roadmap for students learning. Jennifer, do you think we're going to have enough time to jump out here?
I think you should go for it. Absolutely.
Let's go for it. All right. I went ahead and picked Georgia. I had Georgia on my mind this morning. So I picked Georgia, and I am looking at the Focus Skills Resource Center for math in the state of Georgia. I want you to notice that we ask no information from you other than what content you want to see and your state, so that we can give you appropriate content. You saw those colors on the graphic that I showed you, the domain colors. Here they are again. All right, Jennifer and Amanda and Carol, if you will look at chat, and those of you who are listening today, the first one to give me a grade level is what we will explore. 1, 2, 3, go. What grade level do they want, team?
Ninth.
Ninth. Okay. All right, algebra, here we go. Oh, yes, congratulations. You picked the area that has the most focus skills. Congratulations, but you already knew that, correct? All right, when we go to this area of the Focus Skills Resource Center, what we are seeing are the focus skills in algebra. If I want to change a grade, I can. If I want to look at only one domain, I can, but I want you to see the totality of this site. There are 2 buttons you need to be aware of. The print button. If you like to print rather than look online, click the print button and they'll print out for you. The other critical button is how to get back to the home page, and it's this one, back to all skills. So let's look in the domain of, let's look in algebra. How about this one? Seeing structure and expressions. All right. Over here, you see in each domain how many focus skills are listed. So in this one, there are 4. So look at that number 4. Okay. And notice I now see a new number or a new word called position. There are 4 focus skills. And this one is in position 764. Remember I said that your curriculum is put together in teachable order? Do you remember that? This is skill number 764 in the progression of learning. The higher the position, the more difficult the skill. That is it. This is how you play at the Focus Skills Resource Center. I end up being there almost daily, so I'm sure you might develop that habit as well. But let's look at the distribution of focus skills, and this is why I laughed when you said Algebra 1. That's where the strongest concentration of focus skills belong. And then this is your link to go in there and play and play and play. Now I want to show you one other quick resource, and these are called the trip steps. Okay. Within those focus skills, so we know that we've got 307 focus skills. 36 of the focus skills are especially difficult. We call them trip steps. You're reading and writing and you're doing your math and everything is fine and you're working on geometry and boom, you trip over an extremely difficult skill. So we identified for you the 36 focus skills that are extraordinarily difficult. You can download them from the Focus Skills Resource Center. Here is the distribution of the trip steps, those focus skills that are very difficult. And I'll give you an example. Geometry in 3rd grade. It's extraordinarily difficult because multiplication's new. You are learning to use formulas. You have new vocabulary, square units. It is an exceedingly difficult skill for a 3rd grader. 6th grade, here we are again, geometry. Algebra 1, all of these build upon each other. And Jennifer is going to take you through resources that will help you with these trip steps. All right, I'm going to quickly take you through 4 math milestones and then turn this over to Jennifer. Okay. These are significant places where we find our children. Milestone number 1 is mastering fractions and whole number division. If that happens in elementary grades, it's like opening the door for the rest of the way. It is a milestone. Knowledge of fractions and whole number division had a stronger relationship to math achievement than family income. We're working on equity. We're working on equity. Who thought that knowledge of fractions and whole number division plays a role in equity? I think that's fascinating. 5th grade bears this out. If you are strong in fractions and whole divisions, your propensity to thrive on the ACT is set. This is a predictor. Let's look at another another milestone. This is working on 6th grade at grade level. You remember the new teacher project? Students need to work on grade appropriate assignments. Here's where it plays out. You need to be working at grade level on 6th grade. And here's the reason why. 81% of the students who fail 6th grade math do not graduate from high school. That's unacceptable. 6% graduate, but later. That is admirable. 13% graduate on time. This must happen. This must happen. So 6th grade math is a significant milestone. This is interesting, and Carol may speak to this later. Moreover, failing 6th grade math is a predictor of failure, a stronger predictor of failure than the student's race or language learner status. You see, we all need to be working toward the same goals. Not a single student who failed 7th grade math was able to get into advanced math classes. Advanced math classes are your key, your gateway. Okay. And then finally, failing Algebra 1 pretty much has you stuck, because most students who fail Algebra 1 fail it the 2nd time. So these are the milestones that we must implement. And Jennifer, I'm going to turn this over to you. And I just give you the joyous task of showing this great group of people how we can help.
Well, thank you so very much, Jan. I just find this all so fascinating. I am a former math teacher. I've taught all grades from 5th through 12th, and also was a district curriculum director. So this is all information I wish I had 10 years ago, but we're so grateful that we have it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you bring this into action. And we know that it's really, really important to have this actionable in our classroom. So we're going to take you through a few resources, but before we get started on that, let's think about what we can do to move forward. So again, I mentioned that I was a district administrator, and I spent a lot of time in the classroom. I was lucky enough as a district administrator to teach one class a day, which was really, really valuable because I was in it with my teachers. But I used to talk to my teachers a lot and talk to them about what they struggled with and listen to them in terms of their challenges. And in almost every single one of these conversations that I had, it was one of the, the responses about challenges was, well, I have these grade level standards. I'm really working hard to teach them. I'm really trying to get my kids towards the end point, whether that's an end of year assessment or just getting them to be successful in the next course. But I have all of these deficits. I have all these kids on so many different levels, and I don't know how to teach the kids the content on grade level and also teach them the content that could be several years back. And so this is just a pervasive challenge that I think that we feel so much, especially in mathematics. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about how a path forward for overcoming that challenge. So let's put it into context for a second. So this is some information that Dylan Willem put together after the 2019 NAEP assessment. So this was even pre-pandemic, pre all of these additional challenges that we face today. And essentially what he did was he took the results of the 4th grade assessment and smushed them all into one class and said, okay, if I take this range of results and I put them all into one 4th grade class, what would this look like? And what he found was quite astonishing, that in a 4th grade class, if we look at the results in general, we have spans of kids all the way from kindergarten through 9th grade. So remember, 4th grade classroom, we have kids on a kindergarten level and we have kids on a 9th grade level. And it's fairly consistent, 2 and 3 in each level across the board. So we have a 10-year spread of what we might have to teach in a 4th grade classroom. And remember, we need to be teaching every single one of these kids, whether they are in the column that aligns to their assigned grade or not. We need to make sure all of these kids have equal access to the content. So let's think about it a different way. If we know there's going to be challenges, we know there are going to be hurdles that these kids have to overcome. If you take all of these hurdles and you put them all in a pile, it's pretty overwhelming. It's hard to think about how you're going to organize them. How are you going to get these kids to tackle these hurdles? There could be a lot of them. For many kids, there's more hurdles than we wish they could, even ever have to deal with. But we have to be able to move the kids forward. We need to be able to organize their path so that they can move forward and overcome the hurdles that they see in a way that makes sense. So we're taking a jumble of knowledge and content, and we want to put it in a way that allows them to move forward. We want to have these high expectations. Remember, the new teacher project said we need to make sure these expectations are high. We can't just have the kids sitting at the start line and kind of fumbling through. We need to get them moving. We need to move them forward, but we need to help them across these challenges, across these hurdles. So that's where we're going to help you, give you a plan forward today. We're going to help you organize your path such that you can begin to think about how these kids can be supported. So I'm going to take you to some resources that you can use to be able to help your kids forward. So bear with me for 1 second. And I'm going to bring you into a live site. I have to make sure it's okay. Okay, so I had to look. So here we go. So we are showing you the Renaissance homepage. And what you'll notice here is all these amazing, amazing features. But we are going to focus today on a path that uses STAR Math. Now, I know a lot of you use STAR Math. I know a lot of you love STAR Math. It's amazing. We're not going to talk too much about what it can do today. I know a lot of you also love FastBridge. FastBridge is another amazing assessment tool that we have here. what we're seeing today is going to be STAR Math, but this is coming for you FastBridge users. These features and this functionality will be with you very shortly, within a matter of months. So just stay tuned and get excited, because this is going to work for you as well. So again, we love STAR Math. It's a great assessment. 30 minutes gives us lots of information. And when students take STAR Math, they are able to give the educators an indication of where they are. So remember those 10 grade levels? I can sort of see the visualization here. I can see that my kids are on all different levels, very expected. I'm actually a 5th grade teacher right now. I'm going to put on my 5th grade teacher hat. And we're going to take a look at some of our students. So I have this assessment data. It's great. I can get a quick peek at who's doing what, but what next? And what I want to do next is I want to figure out, what am I going to teach? And I have these different buckets that I need to consider. I need to consider my whole class, maybe doing on-level content. I also want to have some pockets of small group work where I can really hone in on what some of the kids need. And I also want to think about each individual student. That's what differentiation is, right? Is making sure that you're addressing all of these different pockets in your class. So we have this amazing tool called Nearpod. And Nearpod will allow you to plan instruction and actually gives you details on how to instruct in the classroom. So we were looking at area before, and we saw area multiplication as a focus skill. And so I'm going to browse in my program here, 5th grade area lessons, and I come up with a lesson on multiplying fractional side lengths to find its area. That's awesome. That's an area lesson. It's standards aligned, and better yet, it actually allows you to go in and have a lesson that you can deliver to the classroom. So I can go in here and I can put this up on my screen. I can show it to my whole class. It's a grade level lesson that's already created for me. That is just fantastic. Look at 5 seconds it took me to find a lesson that I can share with my class. But I also have days where I want to work with groups of students. I want to have one group working on the computer on some practice. I want one group working on maybe some writing assignment in math, and I'm going to work with small groups. And so what this allows me to do is take my assessment results and put my kids into groups. And I can group them however I want. I decided to group them here basically based on how they did on their assessment. And from there, I can see what those students need, those groups of students. So I'm going to look at my first group, my group 1, and I can see exactly how they were doing. Now, these kids are struggling. Their scores are in the urgent intervention category. In fact, this might be work that an intervention teacher is doing. Perhaps they're meeting these kids, they're pulling them out of the classroom and meeting these kids in small groups. What are they going to cover with them? Here's exactly what those kids need. This is where they need to start. And these are all focus skills. You can tell that by the lightning bolt here. So these are critical skills that these kids need. And oh, by the way, I don't need to go look for resources. Here's my lessons right here. So here is my lesson that I can share with this small group to help them through some of these strategies. And so this is available for all of the groups. So I might have groups that are on grade level, and I might have other groups that are above grade level, but everything I need is right here for me. And then, of course, I have students who really want to do some independent work, whether they're catching up with me after school, whether they are advanced kids, and I can actually get a student by student recommendation based on what these kids need. So here I have Alex. Now, Alex is a high flyer. He does well, but Alex is just interested in expanding his skills. We don't want to forget about these kids who have the ability to really excel. And so Alex is coming to me and he's saying, what can I do? And look, here are the exact skills that Alex can work on, that he's ready for. Again, they're focus skills. So we're really targeting those key skills. And what's so cool about these Nearpod lessons, I mentioned you could do them as a whole class. You can do them for small groups. You can also set them to be independent. So a kid who is a self-starter and who's able to work independently can go through and work through the lesson on their own. They log in, and they are able to work through the lesson and the activities on their own. So Alex here is able to take this skill that maybe only he is ready for and work through it independently. How cool is that? I have in just a few minutes taken assessment results, data-driven instruction. I've brought it to the whole class. I can bring it to small groups, and I can bring it to an individual who has a particular need. But
so Jen, sorry to interrupt you. We do have a lot of people in the chat who think this is very cool as well. So I just want to pause just really quickly if we can and just answer quickly some of these questions.
sure, absolutely.
One of them is from Terry, and Terry was wondering, like, what is the library lesson? So those lessons are already built in. And then I can address Nearpod you can access it for free. So I'll put that information in the chat. And they just kind of want to know, like, when the lesson is launched. Is it actually launched in STAR? Is it launched in Nearpod? Like that?
Yeah, great questions. And we can certainly touch base and give you more information about Nearpod. But Nearpod, the lessons will be launched in Nearpod. And so if you select a lesson, it'll launch in a new browser. You can launch it through Nearpod. And these lessons are all pre-built. They are all pre-built. However, they are editable, and you can create your own lessons in Nearpod. So I don't want to get too off track with the amazing features of Nearpod, but essentially it is a presentation tool. We have hundreds of lessons pre-built with activities and interactive tools, but you're also able to build your own. So that's something that you can really be excited about. Okay, so I am going to move forward because I'm a math teacher. And so we know that as math students, kids need practice, right? We can teach them, but if they're not doing the math, they're not going to master the skills. So now I'm going to go to my Freckle interface, because Freckle allows me to do amazing work, amazing practice. And so right off the bat, I can see how my kids are doing in Freckle. This is from assignments that maybe I gave them throughout the past week or two. So this is just wonderful information. But what's even cooler, remember, I'm a 5th grade teacher. I have on I'm teaching, focusing on grade level hat. So right now, I'm really interested in giving my kids some practice that is targeted to what they are learning or what I taught today. And so I'm able to go in here and I'm able to give them a practice assignment. So I'm going to pick fractional rectangles. We're working on rectangle area. I can see right off the bat what skills are included, and I can see that one of the sub skills is a focus skill. So I definitely want to make sure that my kids practice that. The other piece is important, but this is really the meat of this particular standard. I just taught the lesson. I'm going to give them a quick exit ticket because I want to see how they did with the learning today. So I'm going to give them an exit ticket. And what's even cooler is that I can adjust the support settings based on a particular student's need. So again, talk about differentiation. Every student is getting the same assignment, but some kids are getting just a little extra support because that's what they need for success. And that is just an amazing, amazing tool. So I can assign based on what I'm doing in the grade level. And if I go back to my assignments the next day and I take a peek at how kids have done, here I can see really quickly how all of my students have done. I can even review some of the challenging questions. You know, one of the things that I always got stuck on as a teacher is you go over the homework and it ends up taking up the whole class period, right? Because you just keep going and going and going. And here it'll identify the questions that were the hardest for the students. So you can really target those and go over those. But my favorite part of this is the coolest thing. I go down to the end of the assignment, and based on just this assignment, I can see where my kids are. I have 4 students who are struggling with this skill. So this was the grade level skill that I assigned them, but they just need to really look at some prerequisite content. I can assign prerequisite skills right from here. I have 11 kids who did okay. They're doing okay, but I want them to practice more. Remember that practice makes perfect. So I'm going to reassign this at some point, whether it's today or another day, and just make sure they get that practice. And I have 5 students who are ready to soar. They deserve a challenge. They're ready for it. And so I can give them an inquiry-based lesson where they can work collaboratively on some really interesting problems. So right from one assignment, I'm able to get all of that information, which is just fantastic. So I'm going to pull you over I could go in this, remember, we're scratching the surface here. There's so many tools in this that I could show you, but I'm going to just give you a quick overview. Here, again, thinking about differentiation, what kids need. I have kids who thrive with online practice. They love that digital component. But I have kids who really love the printable resources too, who love to write. I still write. I still have to do my math on paper with paper and pencil. And so we have tools for them as well. We have, oh, by the way, I saw that there were some high school teachers. This is not just an elementary product. We have content all the way through Algebra 2. We have some basic skills. All kids need fact practice. They need to know those facts, right? And we also have some extended thinking. So again, challenging students with depth of knowledge and constructed responses. Lots and lots of cool things here. But I haven't even shown you my favorite part. So my favorite part is this standards page. Because as a teacher, this is where I'm focusing on specific standards. I'm a 5th grade teacher. Here's the skills that I need to teach. These are the standards I need to teach my kids. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, we're heading towards the end of March. And I really need to be strategic with my time. So you know what I'm going to focus on? I'm going to focus on these skills. These are the focus skills. I need to make sure that I hit these hard before the end of the year. And so that's where I'm going to spend a lot of my time. It's all right there for you. So it's just amazing that, again, I can, as a teacher, take data. I have instructional resources right there. I have practice that's super easy to assign, super easy to review, and then super easy to take action from, which is the key piece. I can differentiate based on how my kids are doing on a day-to-day basis. So I am going to take you back to the PowerPoint, and we are going to look at just another way that we can really focus on some of the focus skills. So let's do. Okay, so we talked about the focus skills, and we talked about how we, oops, am I not sharing? Sorry. Okay, we talked about the focus skills, and we talked about how they can really highlight some of the key ideas that we want to teach. So when we think about focus skills, I want to just give you a hint as to how they are evident in Freckle. So we have in Freckle progressions. You may have seen the progressions as we walked through. There was some geometry, there's some fractions, there's all sorts of progressions that we have in Freckle. But we also have the ability to take those progressions and highlight our focus skills. So imagine that you have these progressions, and some of the skills in there are labeled the F. Those are your focus skills. Some of those are those key topics we really need to cover. And what we've done is we have taken those focus skills and we've put them in a progression. So now you have all of the focus skills from kindergarten all the way up through the kids' current grade level. So we're not going to go beyond. We're not going to push them beyond independently because we want the teacher to guide students there. But we have all of the focus skills in an alignment. And so when we have those assessments, we can identify from those assessments where a student is able to, or where the last skill is that they mastered. So we are picking that focus skill that they have mastered all the skills up to that. And we're starting these kids on the focus skill progression at the next skill. So we are able to take them from the skill where they need to start and move them forward. So let's see what this looks like back in the product. So we are going to go back to our page here. And we're going to see what we have. So I'm going to log in now. I'm going to log in as a student. So I'm going to go back again. I have all of my, I'm going to see all of my Renaissance features here, and I'm going to go in as a student. And I am going to go to my math. You'll notice that Freckle also has English and science and social studies, but today we're focusing on math, and you will see right here that I can log in and I can see my focus skills progression. So now I'm going to go in and I can go to that next skill that I need to learn. So in this case, it's dividing numbers. Remember, we talked about division as a key area for a key milestone. And so now this student can work on division and move forward on their path. Yes.
So sorry, Jen, we're still seeing the PowerPoint slides. So if you transition to the website, there we go. Now we're seeing it. Thank you.
Okay, let me go back because it's beautiful. So this is where I logged in and I have a focus skills path. Okay, so I can go in here and I can see exactly what this student needs to work on in terms of their focus skills. So I have, in this case, dividing numbers. And when I go in as a student, I can practice that skill. And remember, we're talking about meeting the needs of an individual student. And this student has resources here that they can use. They can talk to another friend who's already mastered that skill. And they have a whole bunch of, they have hints and pens and tools that they can use. So again, talk about differentiation for the student. So with that, we are really excited to bring you all of these amazing tools. I think that this is a way to make it actionable. We've taken assessment, we've brought it into some instruction, we've brought it into practice that is teacher driven and also practice that is based on the focus skills. So that's a really exciting way to move this forward. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Carol, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the language portion.
I thank you for that, Jennifer. That was terrific. That was so terrific. And can everybody see my screen okay? I think that's a yes. I see heads nodding, so I'll go with that. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to just give you one more thing to think about after the amazing information that my two colleagues have presented to you before me, but I'm going to ask you to think about your emerging bilinguals or your English language learners. Consider those terms being used, as the same kind of term today as we talk about this. But I want to just talk briefly about how language itself for these students affects their achievement in math. And so I thought I'd start by looking through the research and see something we all know, but what does the research say? And it says that students who are identified as limited English proficient consistently demonstrated lower achievement in mathematics as compared to their peers who were English proficient. So English proficient obviously would be native English speakers or students who are emerging bilinguals, but in fact are fully proficient in English. But I thought it would be really important if we stopped and looked further at the data concerning this group of students. And I went to the NAEP data, as we all normally do, to try to find something that is, national for us. And I wanted to look at that data based on that previous research. And so this is your emerging bilinguals, the English learners, compared to students who are English proficient. Notice it's the 2022 data where I have it, and I have grades 4, 8, and 12. So you can see that on the bottom. The blue represents the English learners. So in 4th grade, this data is telling us that only 52% of our English learners, emerging bilinguals, if you will, are at or above basic. I'm not talking proficient, I'm talking basic, just basic levels of achievement. And, we always say, well, we always have students who struggle, but the fact is, if you look at how our emerging bilinguals are performing here compared to our English proficient students, there's just no comparison. And that is because that is the effect of language on the ability to achieve. And I just would point out that notice that for grade 12, they don't even exist in the data. I had to go back to 2019 to even get data for English proficient students. So this is really meant to give us perspective on how much is that a challenge. So I thought I'd give you this experience yourself. Now, if you're Spanish proficient or native Spanish speaker, dominant Spanish speaker, you can read this very easily. But if you're not, this is a 4th grade math problem I would like to share with you, and it's a word problem. And I intentionally picked a word problem because we sometimes think that math is really about numbers, but the fact is, math is not just numbers. Math is language with numbers embedded in it all over the place. And the other thing I would ask you to consider for English learners, if they are in instruction in English only, all of the instruction itself is in English. So if this is not a language that you are proficient in, this is really difficult for you. Even if you had a dictionary, even if you were conversational and had high levels of high frequency words, this is still very difficult for you because it's just the application of language into another area of school. So this is that same problem in English. Notice all of a sudden, if this is your language, you can process it automatically, and it just automatically takes you to the math functions you need to perform. Notice the difference in how it affects us. And the level to which you have English in place affects how well you can actually process this in order to get to the math part of it. So what do? Well, here's what we usually do as teachers. We teach vocabulary to try to make up for it. And we have to do that, make no mistake. But we first start with the high frequency words like Dolch, Fry 1000, and numbers. And again, those matter. High frequency means it's used everywhere. And then for math, we focus on math terminology. We think if we teach enough of those math words, that will help make it better for students. And it does, but it's not enough. So the next thing we go to then automatically is academic vocabulary, like these words that transcend disciplines. And notice here I have a little asterisk by the word round, and that is because that happens to be a very multi-meaning word. So that can refer to shape. It can refer to number of times we do something. But if you're an English learner, you likely only know the initial primary meaning of that word, which would be round, which then it would be problematic, even if you knew that word in a word problem. But then the last thing that we never do, because we don't have a way of doing it, is go to low frequency vocabulary. And I promise you, low frequency vocabulary is all over math word problems, all over. So this is something that I'm sharing with you that I'm sure you already know. But the question is, what do we need to know also? And then what do we do? So the first is you need to know that teaching of vocabulary by lists provides some help, make no mistake. But the reality is language is not acquired that way, and that means vocabulary is not acquired that way. It is only facilitated by putting our learners in a flow that is meaningful, interesting, level, and age appropriate. And it has to be comprehensible to them, which means they must understand what they are in the flow with. So what do you do? Okay, all of that's great. What do you do? And how do we help? Well, we have two ways to help your students here, your English learners, your emerging bilinguals achieve in math. Number one, we offer the opportunity for you to actually build language using Mayan, and I'm going to show you that really quickly. Number two, back to Freckle. We're going to give you the opportunity to practice math skills with Freckle. So I'm just going to very quickly show you, I pulled two math books from Mayan to show you how language is built through these books. These are auditory also, know that. And the thing I like about this is automatically you get from this kind of book the different ways we say the same thing referring to math. Notice that countdown, oh, phrasal verb, take away, another phrasal verb. Those are all difficult verbs for students to learn, but if it's in the right flow for the student at the right level, notice what happens. It changes everything. So I'm going to show you one other book, and this is also a math book, and I want you to see the low frequency words here. Notice that I've included shallow, which I showed you in that other slide with vocabulary, deep end. Notice those are also not just vocabulary, but very cultural. You would have to know that to, in fact, make sense of that word problem to do anything with it. And so that's the most first most important thing you can do is build language. That is because language is not correlated, it's causational. Now I'm going to bring you back to Freckle math. Actually, this is the opportunity to do the same kind of math problem in Freckle math as the ones I showed you that are a sample. And the nice thing is, it is all the things that Jennifer and Jan presented. It is focus skills. It gives you the content you need. It gives you what is it, the standard that's being covered, and it also helps with explanations for students. So I'm showing you that first in English. And by the way, it's also in Spanish. So if you happen to have students who receive math instruction in Spanish, particularly, this is wonderful for them. So 3 things to do. Number 1, you must build more language. Language is the big factor. Number 2, you want to have them practice math with Freckle math, and everything that Jennifer said previously and showed you applies here. And again, the same thing she showed you applies to these students, is take advantage of those focus skills in Freckle math, because everything that native speaking students need, in fact, emerging bilinguals need too. And this is how to help make that happen. So anyway, I'm going to pass it back to my colleague. I thank you for these moments with you. Oh, Jan, you're on mute.
Ah, the magic of unmuting. I want to thank you so much for attending. The chat has been amazing. But Amanda, I think you have some information for us that we need to share. If you would like more information on anything you've seen today, remember we opened up with telling you this is just awareness. And looking at the ideas and the thoughts that you shared in chat, you are most aware. It's been exciting to watch. But if there's anything about which you would like more information, that's great. And if you see something, no, I'm good, nothing at this time, that's great as well. We appreciate so much that you gave your time today. From the chat, I've learned quite a bit from you. Jennifer, I want to thank you. That was absolutely amazing. And Carol, as always, we work together almost every day, and I learn something every day from you. So I thank you so, so much. And Jennifer, do you have anything to say? Or Carol, would you like to thank our audience? Either way.
I just want to thank you all for what you all do. I've been there. I know it's not an easy job. And so, especially in these times. So keep rocking it. And hopefully what we shared with you today will be able to just give you some ideas about what this could look like as you move forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. And Amanda, I don't know about your time frame. We do have about 5 minutes left. And typically when we have leftover minutes, it's a gift. So if you have a question, Amanda, could we unmute if someone asks a question, wants to ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we call this the after party.
Yes.
So if you've got a question for us, we're more than happy in the next 5 minutes to answer. Oh, thank you. People have been so kind in chat, so kind, and asked such good, detailed questions. They're helping us learn as well. So if any of you have a question for us, Amanda will unmute you, and we'll be more than happy to respond to you. I think we're okay. We're going to hang on for a few more minutes. Will the recording be emailed? Yes. The recording and the slides. Yes. And all the hyperlinks on the slides are live, so you can go play with anything you saw today. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're so kind. Thank you. All right. Well, if we have no others, we'll just wait a couple of more minutes.
Jeff, I'm going to put a link to Freckle in the chat if you want to grab that. It's got lots of stuff for you to explore, and then we'll be sure to follow up as well.
Yeah. There was a question about FastBridge, that connection to FastBridge. Jennifer, I didn't want to put a time on when that connection might be.
It should be. I mean, we're working on it. We're working hard to make sure that it has similar functionality. So I would, my fingers crossed are for the next few months. Certainly it's a priority for us right now.
Okay. So that was one that I got in chat. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I don't see any other questions. So we will. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that so much. We appreciate that. And remember, we're an email away if you need us. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.